Thanks for clicking on the video. Since you're here and you enjoy watching me work on this Cobra, pull the motor 3 times perhaps, consider hitting that subscribe button. We're real close to 70,000 subscribers. You hitting that button could push us over, really helps out the channel. There it is, that's my 5-second pitch. Let's get to the video. All right, come on, engine number 3. I got faith in you. Is this it? Is this the one? This is definitely not good. Wideband is dead lean. This thing is barely running. We gotta turn around. Hope I can make it back. Oh, it's something. This thing sounds awesome. This happened last time too. Why do I not twist the jack enough to stay up? Looks like a murder scene here. Well, there's a bunch of transmission fluid wasted. Well, in the last video, we tore down the Cobra because, as you guys saw, it is still smoking after many attempts at getting this motor to run. Properly. By many, I really just mean 2. Put it in the first time, burned oil, did valve seals, valve guide, put all back together, still does the same thing. So, to recap, picked up this complete Cobra motor on eBay, freshly rebuilt, kind of went through it, looked in the inside last week, took a look at everything. Everything looks good visually as far as I can tell. So the plan is to swap basically all the stuff here over to this long block. And then I'll figure out what I want to do with the rest of these accessories. You know, part out one of these motors or build another complete motor. But the goal right now is to get this car running again with this long block and hopefully get it running properly. So right now I've got a lot of work to do. Let's get this mess cleaned up. Let's get right to work. Swapping stuff over. Got to get the transmission separated. We got to get this off the K member, get the headers off, get the starter off, get all of our accessories off, and then start, you know, transplanting it over onto here and then dropping this onto the K member. A lot of work to do. Let's get after it. Where's that coming from? It's been leaking for 2 days. What? as usual, making a mess everywhere you look. Old motor is on a furniture dolly now. Got that thing off the engine crane, and basically what I've been doing for the past few hours, it is the next day, is stripping everything that I need off of that motor to get ready to put it on this motor, or have already put it on this motor right off the bat. Got the headers on there with our Ford multi-layer steel gaskets. Got a little layer of copper RTV for extra insurance. Also put my new stainless header hardware on there. Got our new motor mounts on there, engine ground, chassis ground. Got our dipstick tube bolted up. Transferred over the alternator bracket because if you guys remember, this KMJ alternator required us to clearance this bracket a little bit, so got that transferred over. Main engine power harnesses on there, oil pressure sensors hooked up. Got the pulley bridge off, the supercharger pulley bridge. Got our idlers on there because we know these ones were good, the other ones were junk. Water pump seems good, this idler seems good. This header's on this side, same thing with that motor mount. Starter harness is bolted up there, starter's just kind of dangling. Around back here, got our UPR head cooling mod bolted up. Got this heater hose or heater core hose on. Yeah, making some real progress here, guys. Also, you'll notice I've got my Motive power brake bleeder hooked up to the oil pressure port, and you guys guessed it, what we're doing is priming the oil pump. So something I didn't do last time and probably should have, but I want to, do everything I can to make sure that we have oil pressure as soon as we start this thing up. Reduce the risk of having a rocker or a follower pop off. So basically I've filled this with like 2 quarts of oil. Comes up through here, it's gonna fill up the oil filter, fill up the oil filter housing, fill up the brand new oil pump that's in there so that thing's not dry. And then I could hear it pumping up the hydraulic tensioners in the timing set and then leaking down through here. And now you can see we've got oil leaking onto the valves and followers coming out those bleeder holes there. Over here, it pumped up the tensioner and then started leaking down here. So we know we've got not only oil in the new oil pump and the oil filter and oil filter housing, but all the way to the top of the motor as well. So when we hit that key, we should have instant oil pressure, which is important. Clutch is out, flywheel's out, got my instructions back out so I can retorque this thing properly. Supercharger and accessories are over here. And this thing is, I think I've got all the parts I need off this thing. Maybe a couple onesie twosie bolts, we'll see. But this is gonna sit here until I have a chance to figure out what's wrong with it. So up next, gotta get this thing off of the engine stand onto the crane so I can mount the flywheel and clutch and spacer plate. Then I've got to get it back down low enough that I can remate our T56 Magnum, which is right here and fought me a little bit on the way out, as you guys saw, but hopefully go a little bit smoother going in. And then ultimately, I think I'd like to get the engine and transmission assembly back on the K-member, back right here. And then I can, bolt up the rest of these accessories while the motor is right here and easy to get to. And then eventually throw it back under the car, back in there. But we got a lot of work between then and now, so let's not waste time. Back to the grind, here we go. All right, what did we learn last time? Why didn't you guys tell me to put the starter in before I put it on the K-member? I'm sitting here with 17 feet of extensions and a wobble and tape, and now I'm too stubborn to take this thing off the K-member and do it right, so I'm gonna sit here and struggle for the next 30 minutes. You guys should have told me. That's right, put the starter in before it goes on the K-member. Cobra parts everywhere. All that work, and this thing looks exactly like it did a few days ago when we pulled it out. Only we, you and me, know that everything underneath the valve covers is different. And that's what came out. Man, that thing kind of pops with the blue, especially with the vet there. Anyways, gotta stay focused. Made some progress here. Obviously, engine is back on the subframe. Transmission has made it to the engine. I forgot that with these long tube headers, I had to remove the bell housing from the transmission, install the bell housing first, then get the transmission in there. More importantly, under there is my beautiful RXT clutch. Absolutely love that thing. Got that thing back installed, made sure that our throwout bearing play is good, measured that up. Got the starter on before we put it on the subframe this time, so didn't have to fight with that too much. Also got the transmission basically fully installed without the bell housing to make sure my alignment was close. Then bolted the bell housing on and then put the transmission in. Really saved me a lot of time with the usual wrestling you have to do to get the input shaft to, made up correctly to not only the splines, but the pilot bearing as well. Motor mounts are bolted up. Got my valve covers back on with RTV at the points where it meets the timing cover. Got my front pulley on, didn't film that, but it's kind of crowded here. But yeah, reverse thread on this bad Larry, and then a couple 13mm and 10mm bolts there. So we're basically ready to plop the Eaton on and then shove this thing back under the car and drop the car down. But I've made an observation on my Eaton here. So this is the Eaton that came off of the car, the one that we, fully cleaned up before we put this thing together. And look at this. Look what came out of the bottom. This is the PCV tube that connects to the bottom of the turkey pan here, which I have professionally blocked off with a bolt because, as I mentioned in the last video, I was trying to rule out the PCV system, so I blocked it off and just did a couple of breathers. And look at this. Full of oil. And that's not supercharger oil or anything. This is motor oil here, guys. And then if we look into the plenum itself, it's going to be hard for you guys to see, but there's oil in there. And even worse, this is going to be hard for you guys to see too, but let me see if I can do some Android zoom on your ass. Enhance. Again, going to be hard to see. Enhance more. More enhancing. Nah, it's going to be hard for you guys to see. I don't even have to take this off to know that that intercooler brick is full of oil. Like, look at this, still seeping out of there. So, again, the question remains, what happened here? Why is the supercharger intercooler brick full of oil? Is it possible that the PCV system was bad beforehand and it just filled up so much with oil that it didn't matter once I blocked it off and it was still burning it off? Or is it possible the supercharger is sucking the oil up past the rings, from the crankcase or the cylinder walls, and that's why it's full? I'm not entirely sure. This is really strange. I was going to use this supercharger assembly here, but after seeing this, I'm thinking I'm having second thoughts. If we come over here to the Eaton that came on the motor that I bought, this one, it's gonna, again, you guys will have to take my word for this, but there's no oil at all down there. This is the same line there. Thing is bone dry. In here, looks good. Supercharger rotors look very nice. No oil in the plenum here. Also, conveniently, the pulley size, 2.93, is exactly the same as the one over there. Also, check the supercharger oil up front here, and it is clean and full. So, you guessed it. I think I'm going to use this supercharger. I don't want to put on that other one and have all that oil that's stuck in the intercooler brick, just go right into the new motor, and then we think we have a ring problem or a valve guide or valve seal problem again. Let's just eliminate that as a variable for now. Yes, we could separate these and clean them out, and that's one thing. But again, let's just eliminate it as a variable altogether. I can clean this out on my own time, and then again, either part this setup out or figure out what's wrong with this motor and sell it as a complete 0304 Cobra engine. But in the meantime, this thing looks great inside. Outside needs a little bit of cleaning, but that's nothing I can't handle. Like to clean this thing up, get my air motive fuel rail assembly onto the lower intake here, and then we can plop it on the engine there and get it back in the car. So let's keep the progress rolling. Get that Eaton cleaned up, get my fuel rails on there, get the intake manifold gaskets on here, and hopefully shove this thing under the car. 2. Here we go again. Well, it fought me a little bit this time, but she's in there. It's the next day here, guys, but last night I got the motor and transmission as one assembly back into the car. Got a little bit hairy on the lift here. I don't know why it fought me this time. I've done this, this is the 3rd time I've done this now. At least motor going back in for the 3rd time, and usually it's pretty quick, but getting everything lined up and getting the car to drop back, or the body to drop back on the K-member assembly, you know, back and forth and up and down and up and down. You guys saw it, but car got a little cattywampus on the lift there at one point, so that was a little hairy, but got that sorted out, got it bolted up. 2 K-member bolts there, 2 more back there, same thing on the other side, and then 4 transmission cross-member bolts. But she's in there, so now we just got this right here, pile of parts. Not too bad. You guys have seen this before, unfortunately. AC compressor's got to get hooked up, power steering, radiator lines, expansion tanks, wiring harness, fuel rails or fuel lines and stuff are actually already hooked up. Drop a battery in it, and we're damn close. So yeah, let's keep the chit chat to a minimum. Just get right back to work, get this engine buttoned up, and let's say a prayer right now, cross our fingers that this motor is good and it fires up and sounds healthy. So let's get to work. Cobra, third first start, LOL. So we've made some serious progress here. This thing has gone from the motor basically just bolted in to pretty much ready to start in a matter of, I don't know, an hour or two. Once again, unfortunately getting kind of good at this. Here's the last of the things that I have to do to get this thing ready to fire. I just hooked up all the vacuum lines. We've got to put a battery in it, and then I'd like to hook up the steering shaft between the driver's side long tube header there. See, coolant leaks here with a question mark next to it. It is the next day. Last night I noticed that it was a little bit wet around this driver's side coolant crossover port where it connects into the head. I was like, maybe I just spilled some filling it up. Let's table that for a minute, see what it looks like tomorrow. Looked okay just now. And when I lifted the car up, it must have changed the angle slightly, and it's definitely wet down there, and even worse back here at the back of the head where it runs to the back of the head. Uh-oh. Big old drip of coolant in that, what is that, a freeze plug back there in the head? So unfortunately, that means I need to drain most of the coolant that I just put in, wrestle this coolant, disconnect these two hoses here, probably take off this snub idler, which means I need to take off this belt, wrestle this coolant crossover off, and then there's an O-ring on each side. One of them is probably bad. I thought about doing this when the motor was out of the car and the coolant crossover was right in front of me, but I was like, it's probably fine. Well, it's not. So let's backtrack a little bit, hopefully fix the leak at this coolant crossover, fill it back up with coolant, pop a battery in it, put some oil in it, hopefully we remember to do that, and hit the key. So let's get back to work. I'd like to fire this thing tonight if possible. Well, for the third time, it is first start time. Yeah. New motor with the valve guide fixed, and now this one. Yeah, so third first start time. Man, I hope that we get some luck on this one. But yes, I fixed the coolant crossover leak with some couple of O-rings. I actually did the two in here as well. There's 4 total on the coolant crossover, 1 on each side, and then 2 at the center joint here. No leaks. So I believe that has solved our coolant issue. Everything's back together. Coolant is back in, filled from the coolant crossover here. Intake is on. Intercooler system has got fluid in it and bled. We've got 6 quarts of conventional oil. In general, not recommended to break in a new motor with synthetic oil. Go ahead, start an argument in the comments about, break-in oils and whatever. I think a lot of people have had good luck with regular conventional oil, which is what I'm doing, and then we'll change it after a couple heat cycles to another conventional oil, and then typically 500 to 1,000 miles once everything's broken in and seated. Then you can switch to your synthetic oil. But we're a long way from there yet. Let's just see if we can get this thing started without knocking like a Jehovah's Witness or something like that. And boy, we are gonna need it. I didn't check timing on this thing. I just, it seemed like it was assembled properly, had all the correct paint marks on it. Fresh hone, appears probably has fresh rings and bearings. Let's just hope the timing was done right. Normally I like to crank this thing over to try and build a little oil pressure, but because I primed it this time, I'm just gonna send it. I just checked for fuel leaks, don't see any. We got oil in it, we got coolant in it. There's no leaks at all right now, so screw it. Let's say a prayer. Hopefully this thing fires up, no strange noises. Let's hope we can maybe get some luck for once on this. All right, come on, engine number 3. I got faith in you. Just gonna get our gauges up here so we can keep an eye on coolant temperature. If we get that far, obviously we're watching for oil pressure, not only here, but also on our dummy gauge here. All right, come on, engine number 3, here we go. There's oil pressure, tons of oil pressure. Good up here. Any leaks? Gonna get some stuff burning off the headers. If you hear a slight exhaust leak, not too worried about that. That's my V-band right there. I was rushing putting that on, but woo! Woo! All right, guys, I'm gonna shut it down so I can fix that exhaust leak so we can hear better. Also before it gets too hot, but look at that. Basically maxed out the gauge at like 90 pounds of oil pressure. I'm cool with that. Woo! All right, we ain't out of the woods yet, but that's a good start. All right, we will take that. The motor sounded incredible, sounded really good. 100 PSI of oil pressure at cold start. No leaks that I see just yet, still early. We've got, according to my phone timer here, about 2 minutes of runtime, maybe a minute and a half. Yeah, we got some stuff burning off the headers, oil from my hands, grease. There was a little bit of coolant on there from when we had the leak, but everything is looking really good. Whew, getting a little smoky in here. Let's open a door. But yeah, I was kind of rushing, putting on that last V-band clamp, so we've got a massive exhaust leak there, which can give you a little bit of a heart attack at first startup on a new motor because it sounds a lot like a tick or a knock, but a keen ear will be able to tell you that sounded like an exhaust leak. Up top sounded perfect. You get down low, right at the collector there, it was an exhaust leak. But let's let that cool for a minute, double check everything. I'll fix that exhaust leak, then we'll start it up again, but it's a good first start. We'll take that. We did hear a little bit of chatter at the beginning while oil pressure was building. It's totally normal. While the oil pressure builds, those tensioners and chains are kind of slapping around a little bit, then those tensioners build up pressure, everything quiets down, the lifters get oil, totally normal. It's almost like you see the gauge go up, then the motor goes silent. Love that feeling. But yeah, let's get that exhaust leak fixed. See that? V-band's not lined up. It's a huge exhaust leak. Quick fix, we'll be back in action. All right, exhaust leak is fixed. Round 2, here we go. Sorry guys, my light died, but listen to that. Whisper quiet. We have a check engine light, but we got good oil pressure. Temperature's coming up, got the heat on. Seems good so far. Is motor number 3 the one? I don't know, still early to tell, but she sounds good. Firing on all 8, nice even, clean revs, no smoking yet anyways. Just a little puffing out, it is a little chilly and humid, but that's just condensation. Nice and clean though. All good down here. Coolant temp's 188. Fan should be coming on here any minute. Still got great oil pressure, 25 psi at hot idle. That hose is hot. That hose is hot as well. Ha ha ha! Is this it? Is this the one? I don't know. I'm not gonna count my blessings. What's a good expression for this situation? Count my chickens before they hatch? Sure, we'll go with that. The motor runs incredible. It sounds incredible. You guys can hear it. No weird noises, has great oil pressure, no leaks that I can see. We just got up to 194 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm gonna shut it down. You guys have heard me say this a million times. These motors are kind of finicky with bleeding the cooling system. So I'm gonna let it cool down. We'll check the coolant at the crossover here, top off the reservoir here if we need to. And we should be good. We'll double check the oil. But man, I know it looks a little smoky in here right now, guys, but you could probably see on video, that's all burning off the headers. That's totally normal with a motor that you just put in. Absolutely nothing that I could see out the tailpipes yet. Even if we did, probably wouldn't be a big deal because it's a brand new motor, but great oil pressure. We got hot heat in there. We do have one check engine light. Maybe we can scan that real quick. But holy crap, guys, that went really well for once. No leaks. Motor sounds great. Revs good. You can hear that eating. Beep, beep. Quick throttle blips. Car runs perfect, so I'm not terribly worried about that code. But let's just see what it is. P1000, that's a readiness code. I'm not worried about that one. What's this one? P0354. I'll have to look that one up and get back with you guys, but I think I'm gonna call it for tonight. That is a huge win for our cheap Cobra project. Let's let this thing cool down. We'll double check the coolant. And I think tomorrow, I'd like to get the rest of the suspension back together. I feel confident enough to take this thing out on the road, do some light driving, get some load under this motor, hopefully help those rings seat, and we should be good to go. So yeah, put the rest of the suspension back together, get our tie rods hooked up. I gotta tighten the drive shaft bolts. We'll give everything a once over and hopefully get this thing out on the road for its first test drive with motor number 3 under my ownership. Catch you guys tomorrow. Woo! Big win tonight. mess. Outside for the first time in a couple weeks with our brand new motor. Never have daylight. California is once again on fire, so it's hazy and dark early today, but I can't wait. Going for a ride. Hopefully you guys can see something here. Well guys, it's not ideal. Shadowy figure right here, but like I said, I couldn't wait. Oh yeah, let's get some load on this motor. It's not running good. Wideband keeps going dead lean. I did scan that check engine code, and it came back to an ignition coil. Oh, this is not good. This is definitely not good. Wideband is dead lean. This thing is barely running. We got to turn around. Hope I can make it back. Oh, it's something. Car sounds good. Has great oil pressure. Like, as soon as you get off the throttle, it comes back, but with any sort of light throttle, we're just dead lean. All right, let's get it back to the driveway, scan for codes, and see if we can see what's going on. If we make it. What's wrong with this thing? No idea. Yeah, me either. All right, guys, so P0354 is an ignition coil code. P035 is the ignition coil indicator, and the 4 indicates that it's on cylinder number 4, which in this case on a Ford is this back one right here. And look here. This coil came unplugged. It's probably because the clip itself is broken. Oh, no, I think that was just it. But yeah, that's more than likely our issue, was we were just down a cylinder at one point or another. So let's get that coil plugged in. Hopefully that resolves our issue. Let's check the rest of these. Make sure everything else is good. Make sure our fuel injectors are plugged in. All right, let's see if that did anything. Sounds good. That looks much better. Let's see what it does under a load. That's better. Guys, I apologize. This footage is probably garbage, but I just wanted to take you with me. Take this thing out in the morning, assuming this continues to go well, but the car is running really good. Oil pressure is great. Coolant temp's just getting up to 190 now, so should keep an eye on that. Running good. All good up here. No burping from the coolant tank or the overflow tanks. Looks like we got that burped. Engine sounds great. No leaks. Woo! All right, guys. Well, as you can see, it's dark, so let's shut it down for tonight. Catch you in the morning. Lots of engine braking and zero smoke. Still engine braking. There we go. Came out of it. That's what we like to see, boys. Good morning, guys. It is the next morning. Obviously, it's a foggy one this morning. Also, I think I need to correct myself. I think it's Canada that's on fire, not California. It's always one of the two. But very foggy this morning, but it's a little bit cooler out. Beautiful morning for a drive, and the Cobra is doing awesome. We've got 50 pounds of oil pressure at cruising. Coolant temps holding about 188, 186. This thing sounds awesome. Yeah, and I'm just doing lots of varying RPM, lots of engine braking, which is what we're doing right now, bringing it way up in the RPM range, then letting the engine brake all the way down with the fuel injectors off. Gonna force those rings into the walls and really get them to seat, but I quickly reviewed the footage this morning. There is zero smoke at, a cold start in the morning. Something that I never had with that other motor, not even once, especially after we got it good and hot last night. And I have not seen any smoke at all driving this thing right now, not revving it, not engine braking, nothing. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we are going to be in good shape here. Everything is pointing towards this is a healthy motor right now. Coolant temp, oil pressure, zero smoke. It runs and pulls awesome. Getting into boost a little bit, really try and get those rings to seat as best we can, and we've got just about 10 miles on this thing now, and it's not giving me a single issue. I don't know, boys. Is this Cobra finally done fighting me? What do you say? Are you done? It's quite the fit you put up. I don't know. I'm happy. I'm happy with this. Well, I don't think I could have asked this to go any better. Bought a motor with no receipts, no real information on it, kind of took a gamble on it, quickly looked it over, tossed it in the car, and it appears to be running perfectly. Sounds great, looks great, excellent oil pressure, no overheating, no smoking, makes all the right Terminator noises. I mean, what else could we ask for here, guys? Well, since you asked, I suppose we could have asked that it wouldn't have had a bad motor to begin with, and maybe just in fact really did need a clutch. Or, maybe the second motor could have been good. But hey, third time's a charm, am I right? Well, at this point, I'm going to continue to put miles in the car, just like I did last time. I'm going to put as many miles as I can on it. I'm working with my tuner right now to hopefully get this thing back on the dyno and make some wide open pulls. I can't go wide open just yet. It's not quite tuned for it, but we are just about there. But in the meantime, just gonna drive it. If it has any bugs, hopefully we can work them out, but I've got about 15 miles in the car right now and it drives absolutely perfect. No complaints, but I will keep you guys posted. We are not done with this car yet. If and when we finally do get it running 100% tuned and everything, I cannot wait to tackle this paint. This Sonic Blue is really gonna shine. Can't wait to take a DA to this thing, do all the final cosmetic touches that I want to do, and we can finally call this endless project done. Gonna start something on the Lightning right now if you guys are into that kind of stuff. Benz will be behind that eventually. I know a ton of you guys have been asking for it. It's coming, I promise. With that, if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. We are so close to 70,000 subscribers as of the filming of this video. So consider doing that. Thank you guys as always for watching. I will catch you in the next one.